Hello guys, and welcome to another video, and today we will be discussing Twitter, because I've had a pretty negative experience with it, especially lately, not just because of some of the events that have been happening lately on that website, but just in general, I've just had a pretty negative experience overall, as most people probably have. And today in the discussion, I will be joined by Demeech, who also has a lot of things to say about Twitter.
What's your favorite website? Twitter! Oh my goodness. Wait, what is the Kablooey guy doing here? I hate Twitter. I left Twitter last year. Oh boy. Where do we even begin?
Yeah, there's just so many problems with Twitter. It's almost hard to kind of go through them. But like the first thing I kind of think of with Twitter is generalizations. Like, it's just a lot of people have one opinion that they stick to, and there's just like a lot of people are narrow-minded and they're thinking on Twitter, and it leads to a lot of arguments and a lot of controversy a lot of the time with tweets and different things. Like with Nintendo, for example, there's like the definition of unfinished. For a while, that was like actually a topic of debate. Like it not just like not the games, not the actual problem with the games lacking content and being unfinished, just what unfinished is. Like if unfinished is like a buggy mess, or if unfinished means not having any content in the game. And
Well, we know the actual definition. Nintendo games aren't unfinished. They're just incomplete.
yeah, but yeah, I feel like just a lot of the Nintendo discussions have had a lot of generalizations in general. A lot of people don't think about what perspectives people have on things. It's just a general look on thing. It's like always black and white when you're thinking about different things. It happens like a lot in like the Mario community specifically that I've seen, like a lot of debate about like how a game is. It's just like, if you think this way, you think this. If you think this other way, you think this. It's just, that's what I see a lot on Twitter. It's just like a lot of generalizations on different topics.
And that was a huge part of why I left Twitter, because I'm all for critical thinking and discussion. As we've talked about before, when Mario Golf Super Rush released, for example, you actually found the game to be fine in many aspects, and I would say that you enjoyed it a lot more than others, and a lot of people didn't agree with you, myself included. But that didn't stop us from talking, or it didn't lead to any arguments or anything. In fact, I was intrigued by it because, with a game like that, I wanted to know what you found to be good about it. And that's the thing with game opinions, or just, stuff like that in general, whether it's movies or games. It's cool to hear different outputs and different opinions and ideas and such as when it comes to your favorite Mario Kart, because sometimes it'll be Mario Kart Wii, other times it'll be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And if it's Mario Kart Arcade Grand Prix, I'd love to hear why, because that one is more obscure than the others. It doesn't mean any of us are right or wrong. It just means that we have a specific taste when it comes to what our favorite games are. But with Twitter, and it's good that you brought up the unfinished games thing, because I made the infamous Mario Kart tweet last year before I left. It was something along the lines of, if Nintendo fans keep brushing off Nintendo releasing unfinished games, this is what Mario Kart 9 is going to be like. And it had 12 characters, a realistic looking racetrack, and free updates will be added Waluigi Pinball. And when I made that tweet, the goal was to showcase what this free update thing could be like in the future. And like I said, this was with Mario Golf Super Rush. And what happened with that tweet is, the ones who got a hold of it, they just could not understand why I said the games were unfinished, and essentially went on and on about the definition of unfinished. And I saw comments to a reply chain,
Yeah,
and one guy kept spamming an image of games launching with free content updates, games launching actually unfinished. Nintendo fan, what's the difference? Just essentially, minimizing the actual problem and making it such a black and white idea When in
Yeah.
reality, not every game has to be a buggy mess or broken to be unfinished. It can lack things like a stage select screen or way to adjust the CPU difficulty for it to be unfinished. And when you see a lot of these updates that are just adding in stuff that should have been there to begin with, then that is why people are saying that's unfinished. And I've talked about it so much, and you've talked about it as well.
Yeah.
But bringing in the conversation of a lack of critical thinking, that definitely is a great example because it really discourages any kind of discussion. If you say Nintendo games are unfinished, you're objectively, factually wrong,
Yeah, and I think a
according to the
lot.
minds of their most loyal fans on Twitter.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these things, a lot of people view arguments as like, especially like looking specifically at these games, a lot of people take these words and these arguments, and they look at them and they think they're attacks against the games that they like. Like looking at Paper Mario specifically, if I say like, oh, there's something about Origami King, like let's say the lack of original characters, because that's one of the problems that I have with that game, even though I enjoyed Origami King. I've made a lot of tweets talking about the lack of original characters in Origami King, and there's been a lot of arguments like under those tweets like, oh, you just you don't like Origami King, or just because you don't like those original characters, or oh, people have been talking about that a million times, or oh, it doesn't matter, you like these things, it's just like you really can't have certain opinions on Twitter without people thinking that you're attacking like a certain other view, but you're just kind of providing another opinion. It's just like with the unfinished thing, it's just like people view that as just an attack against the game that they like, and not really like another opinion or a genuine criticism. Because I feel like in general, a lot of genuine criticism or a lot of opinions about games are often like kind of made into toxic arguments in general, because it's just there's a lot of people just, there's like definitely kind of a war between like criticism and toxic positivity when it comes to a lot of games, and it's just really made Twitter just like a miserable place, like the talk about your opinions on games and the talk about your thoughts on certain games and different things and just things in general.
And the thing is, with that, the reason why I left wasn't because people disagreed with my opinions. I left because there was no point of sharing my opinions when all I'm gonna all that's gonna happen is I get blasted for them just because some people disagree. Like I said, the unfinished games thing was one of the examples of that. And, you know, just going into the conversation of there really only being one right opinion in the minds of many on Twitter. When it comes to what you call the worst Nintendo game ever, that's one that I've noticed because even though I'm off of Twitter, I'm occasionally brought up, I see from time to time. I have friends send me the tweets. One of them was something along the lines of, go play an actual bad game, referring to when I said Nintendo Switch Sports is the worst game Nintendo has ever made. And then you want to know what all the comments said, or all the replies for the most part?
What?
But Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, Amiibo Festival, Judy Robo Ziplash,
Yeah,
they're right there.
yeah, it's like I've seen that like a lot about things. Like it's just in general, there's just a lot of negativity when it comes to these things. It's just like, yeah, like when you're looking at that, it's just like they can't really see, like a lot of people can't really see like a criticism towards a game like Battle League. Like when you're when you've brought that up, there was definitely a lot of negativity behind that game and everything. Just like, especially when you compared it to Ultra Smash and different things. Like I feel like a lot of people felt that Ultra Smash is the bad Mario sports game. There isn't another bad one. That has to be the bad one. That's just a clear generalization that's created like a lot of arguments on Twitter. It's
You
just,
want to know what the more wild generalization was?
what?
They thought that post was me saying that I liked Ultra Smash.
Oh
In
yeah,
fact, people
yeah,
think I do like Ultra Smash.
yeah, and
I did make one joke video about it, saying that it's unfinished treasure. It was a joke video referring to Battle League's first update, and the reason why I compared the games is because they have very similar problems: lack of content, lack of variety, and that's why I compared the two games. I wasn't saying that Ultra Smash is a gem. I'm just saying that Switch games seem to get a pass, while in the Wii U era, games would just get blasted if they were bad or if there were stuff fans didn't want. Remember the Amiibo Festival and Color Splash debacle?
yeah,
Federation Force? It was insane. But if those games were revealed now, if you criticize them, there's going to be the group that considers you entitled or factually wrong or being toxic for sharing your thoughts about why you don't like a certain game or a certain product. And even if you like something, there are going to be the people who are like, oh, you're factually wrong.
yeah,
Like Crafted World, for example. The
yeah.
same guys who run my case about Battle League, well, it wasn't a lot, it was just one that I saw. He was saying something along the lines of how I was so wrong and toxic about Battle League, yet he criticized me because I said what he considered to be the most boring Switch game of all time is actually fun. But you're right, there's just not there's an entire lack of encouraging critical thinking. It's very
Yeah,
narrow-minded. There's a lot of generalizations, and
and
with the worst Nintendo game of all time thing, that is subjective. And in my stance, I think Switch Sports is worse than a game like Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, because Ultra Smash at least had some care put into it. You didn't get golf in the winter. Switch
yeah.
Sports has a complete lack of creativity, lack of passion behind it. It doesn't even play well. The sports aren't good. They don't feel good to control or anything like that. And I consider it to have pretty much no redeeming aspects, which is why I deemed it the worst.
And I wanted to bring up an example kind of relating to my experience on Twitter, and I know obviously I have to talk about Paper Mario, but just like a lot of times on Twitter, I know I did bring up the Origami King example, but a lot of the times on Twitter I have brought up my criticisms with modern Paper Mario in general. And I've brought up, like, how I don't like the modern character designs, or I don't like specific things they've been doing. And a lot of people have just told me that I was toxic for it, and I was just a blind Thousand Year Door fan for just, like, criticizing the modern Paper Mario games. I mean, I feel like a lot of generalizations have been made in the Paper Mario community on Twitter and everything, and that kind of bleeds into the whole Mario community and on Twitter in general. Like, a lot of the people who like the older GameCube, Wii Mario games that have like a lot of creativity, like especially Thousand Year Door. Thousand Year Door is the buzzword a lot of the time on Twitter. A lot of people think that people who like those more creative and more interesting Mario games with a lot of original characters and a lot of unique locations and different things like that, there are a lot of people who think that is toxic, because that means you automatically hate the modern Mario games on the Switch, especially Paper Mario. And I feel like that's definitely caused a lot of people to just, like, go under, like, my tweets about, like, criticizing, like, some of the problems I have with, like, modern Paper Mario and stuff like that, and just deem me as toxic for, calling out some of these problems that I have with them, and criticizing some of these problems that I have. Just in general, it's actually kind of made the Mario community toxic, which really is, like, I know the Paper Mario community is generally seen as a toxic fan base, but I feel like Twitter has kind of made the Mario community in general toxic, because there's just a lot of debate about whether games are generic or not. Like, I feel like I see that brought up a lot, and it's just, like, it's created just a lot of toxicity, and so I'm not gonna really bring up any specific examples, but, like, I feel like there were a lot of people, I don't really agree with this, stance, but there was that Mario mandate thing that went around last year. I used to agree with it. Now I only really agree with it for like Paper Mario. But I feel like people twisted that idea and started making fun of the people who thought that there were mandates in Mario games. It gets to a point like where there's people like mocking and making fun of people with other opinions. It just creates a really negative situation and just creates a really negative environment in general. Like, people can't criticize things without people mocking them or dogpiling the replies, and it's just miserable.
I will say, the Paper Mario thing is a fold above the rest. But when it comes to the Mario community in general, I would have to disagree with that. It's become toxic because that's mainly just Twitter, and there are many reasons because of it.
Oh, well,
the environment certainly doesn't promote
a
positive environment.
Yeah, what I meant is like the Mario community kind of within Twitter. Outside of Twitter, it's actually a pretty neutral, if not good, fan base. Like,
Great.
Yeah, most experiences I've had outside of Twitter and the Mario fan base are great. Even Paper Mario to some degree. I would even say, like, on like websites like Reddit, like, the Paper Mario community isn't really that toxic, but like, looking into Twitter, within that Mario bubble on Twitter, it's actually pretty toxic, like, even within the Mario fan base in general, which is something that could really only happen on Twitter. It's just, like, you could think of the most neutral fan base. I'll even give another example of, like, a good fan base. Kirby. Kirby is generally seen as a pretty good fan base, but there were some times where people were arguing about King Dedede being a villain or not, and then there's also the debate behind Star Allies and everything. Like, it's just, even like the most neutral, good fan bases can be turned into like these toxic, like, fan bases that are miserable to interact with on Twitter. It's just, Twitter just creates the most toxic situations in general, and it's just miserable, and it's just why it's not fun, and it's not a good experience overall.
I will say that a huge part of that could be the character limit, because if you look at other platforms that don't have it, the conversations can have a lot more detail and explanations. Things can often get misinterpreted on Twitter, and a lot of it just comes from the instant gratification of how quick everything is.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't lead to conversations that are meaningful or anything like that. And when you mention the Mario fan base, the reason why I said it's not a problem outside of Twitter is because it's great on YouTube. I just posted a video, every Nintendo Switch Mario game ranked, and I was reading through the comments, and I saw one where a guy was talking about how his favorite Mario game on the Switch is Super Mario Party, and that's an opinion I don't hear very often. So I was intrigued to read through it and, get an understanding why Super Mario Party is his favorite Mario Party, and it was a good conversation. It's cool knowing some other sides. In fact, even with a game like Mario Strikers Battle League, which I've been very critical about, I'm always interested to hear the other side on why they like the game.
Yeah, and even with
stuff like that.
Yeah, and even with games like Sticker Star, I've seen people tell me that they liked Sticker Star and everything, and I completely understand them, and I like to hear the other opinions, even for games that I dislike. Like, I think it's good to hear other opinions, but Twitter demonizes other opinions. It pits people against each other with people who have different opinions. And just in general, it's a toxic environment that, like, no normal person should have to deal with on a daily basis, honestly. But the fact that it's
I'm not normal,
but
I agree.
But the fact that it's addictive is really just, like, that's why so many people keep using it, and that's why I've kept using it for so long. And that's just, like, you'd think, like, such a miserable place, like, that no one would want to use Twitter. But it's so addictive with how the algorithm works and how quick it is to communicate with so many people and get all of these likes. Like, I could post, like, this Paper Mario meme, and it could get, like, 2,000 likes overnight. It's just, like, it's so addictive. And that's one of the main problems with it. It's just, like, the way that Twitter is constructed overall, it's just, it's really addictive.
That was also one of the reasons why I left, because I was on it way too much. I was spending way too much time on it. And I just, you know what I did? I was sitting in my recliner and thought, you know what? Enough's enough. And I just left. And I haven't looked back since then. And you're right, the nature of Twitter is addictive, especially with replying and stuff and engaging with stuff. And I realized that I was not using my time to do productive things. I was wasting it on Twitter, talking to a wall about the definition of unfinished versus incomplete and other stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
and I wanted to say, over the,
that's why I left.
yeah, and over the past week, I've been taking a break from Twitter, and I'm probably not going to use it as much and even leave at some point, if I, like, eventually get in contact with some of the friends that I have on there, but, I was thinking, like, right before I took a break from Twitter, I was thinking, why do I have to deal with this? Like, it was just getting to the point, like, I mean, I was still kind of addicted to it to a degree, but it was getting to the point where I was scrolling through it and I was thinking, why do I have to waste hours of my life dealing with these toxic people and toxic conversations that no normal person should have to deal with for a daily basis? I've been wasting hundreds, if not thousands of hours on this app, and I could really be using this time to do something productive. Like spend more time on my videos on my YouTube channel, or spend more time doing work for school, doing actual productive things, rather than spending hours on this horrible website. And it's just, yeah, I just, like, Twitter is, I feel like I should try to get more people to, like, use it less, or more people to move over to, like, Discord, because I really want to stop using Twitter. This time over the past week...
With Twitter, if you're starting a movement to get off the platform, flip the bird. That's what it should be called.
Yeah, but yeah, once I'm able to, like, find, like, a place, I know Discord is fine, and then I obviously have the YouTube channel and everything, but once I find, like, a place, that I can, like, talk to people, easier, that I know, and everything, I would ditch Twitter easily. I'm just tired of it. I'm just, like, with all the stuff going on right now, I mean, Elon Musk and stuff like that, it's just, like, all of that stuff going on, combined with all the problems that I already had with Twitter, it's just, like, I'm tired of it. It's just...
I will say this, if someone's actually your friend and you say, hey, I'm leaving Twitter and I use Discord, and they're like, oh, I'm not going to get Discord, then they're probably not that good of a friend anyway. So by all means, just contact the friends you've made there, and from there, I would just suggest leaving, because you will not regret it, especially considering what you've said. But all I have to say, to just summarize it, Twitter isn't a bad place. It's just miserable.
Yeah. So, yeah, anyways, those are my thoughts on Twitter right now, and why I've been wanting to move away from it, and eventually leave Twitter. So, yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe, and subscribe to Demeech, and make sure to check out my Discord server, and not my Twitter, if you want to. Goodbye.